I didn't expect him to bring her. I expected a fight, a conversation, maybe even an apology disguised as arrogance. I did not expect him to walk into the restaurant with his hand resting proudly on the stomach of the woman carrying his child. But there he was, smiling, like I was the embarrassment. The restaurant was one of those places that thinks dim lighting softens cruelty. White tablecloths, expensive wine, soft piano music that made everything feel deliberate. He chose it. Public places keep things civilized, he'd texted. I almost laugh now. Civilized. When he sits across from me, she sits beside him. Not across. Not separate. Beside. Her hand stays on his arm like she's staking a claim. She insisted on coming. He says casually, as if that explains anything. I look at her. She's glowing. Pregnant. Confident. Wearing a ring I recognize as one he once showed me and said, maybe someday. You look surprised, he says. I force a smile. You said you wanted to talk. We are talking, he replies. The woman beside him smiles sweetly. I just wanted to see the famous ex. Famous. Like I'm a cautionary tale. I feel something sharp and humiliating crawl up my spine. Why am I here? I ask. He leans back in his chair. To make things clear, he says. We're building something real now. A family. I stare at him. You cheated, I say quietly. He shrugs. It happened. It happened. I repeat. The woman shifts slightly. We didn't plan it, she says. But life chooses sometimes. My hands tremble under the table. You told me you weren't ready for commitment, I say to him. I wasn't, he replies smoothly. With you. There it is. The blade. You were too emotional, he continues. Too intense. Always wanting more. More honesty. More effort. More loyalty. Yes. How unreasonable of me. And now? I ask. Now I'm stepping up, he says proudly, squeezing her hand. Because this matters. The implication hangs heavy. I didn't. You wanted ambition, he adds. You wanted growth. Stability. But you never understood how the real world works. I let out a breath that sounds almost like a laugh. And how does it work? I ask. He smiles. Power, he says simply. Position. Security. His gaze flicks over my outfit. Simple, elegant, but not flashy. You're still playing small, he finishes. The humiliation burns, but something else settles beneath it. Clarity. You invited me here, I say slowly. To prove you upgraded. He doesn't deny it. I moved on, he says. You should too. The check arrives before I can respond. He doesn't look at me when he stands. Take care of yourself, he says, like he's doing me a favor. The woman smiles one last time. Good luck, she adds sweetly. I don't cry. Not there. Not in the restaurant. I wait until I'm in my car, doors locked, nights swallowing the edges of everything. Then I break. I gave him years. Support. Loyalty. Belief. I stood by him when he had nothing but ambition and debt. And he replaced me with a woman who gave him something tangible. A child. I sit there for a long time. Then my phone buzzes. Unknown number. I almost ignore it. I don't. Is this Ava? A calm male voice asks. Yes. This is Michael Laurent. The name lands heavily. Everyone in the city knows it. White. Late 30s. Billionaire investor. Owner of half the skyline. Private. Controlled. Ruthless in business. I sit up straighter. Yes. You had a meeting with my firm last month, he continues. Your proposal. Right. The startup idea I'd pitched before everything collapsed. The one my ex had mocked. Women don't survive in that sector, he'd said. Yes, I reply carefully. I reviewed it personally, Michael says. I'd like to discuss it further. My pulse quickens. When? Tomorrow morning, he replies. 9. The next day, I stand in front of a glass tower that reflects the sky like it owns it. I'm not small. I never was. Michael Laurent's office is minimalist, precise, intimidating in its quiet luxury. He stands when I enter. Tall, white, sharp features, dark tailored suit, eyes that assess without apology. You look different than your file photo, he says. That was taken before, I reply. Before what? Clarity, I answer. He watches me carefully, then gestures for me to sit. We talk business for an hour. No flirting, no condescension, just sharp questions and sharper answers. He challenges me. I don't back down. When I push back on one of his critiques, he doesn't shut me down. He leans forward. Good, he says quietly. I don't invest in people who fold. When the meeting ends, he walks me to the door. I'll fund it, he says simply. I freeze. You will. With conditions, he replies. You'll be hands-on. Visible. No hiding behind advisors. I wouldn't, I say. I know, he answers. A pause lingers. Not business. Something else. You handled that dinner better than most would have, he says suddenly. My stomach tightens. You heard about that? He gives a faint smile. This city talks. Of course it does. I don't invest in women who let humiliation define them, he continues. And do I? I ask. His gaze holds mine. No, he says. Weeks turn into months. The company grows. My name circulates in rooms that once ignored me. And every time I enter one, I feel stronger. Not because of revenge. Because of alignment. Then one afternoon, at a charity gala, I see him, my ex, standing beside the same pregnant woman. But this time, I'm not alone. Michael's hand rests lightly at my back. Not possessive. Protective. Intentional. My ex's eyes widen when he sees us. Recognition. Shock. Something dangerously close to regret. Ready? Michael murmurs quietly. For what? I ask. To walk forward, he replies. And for the first time since that restaurant night, I smile without pain. But I don't yet know that this is only the beginning. Because Michael Laurent doesn't invest casually. And the proposal he makes next will change everything. The gala feels different when you walk into it with someone who doesn't need to prove anything. Michael's hand at my back isn't ownership. It isn't performance. It's quiet alignment, like we're walking in the same direction on purpose. Across the room, my ex stares. I don't look away first this time. Are you uncomfortable? Michael asks quietly. No. I say, surprising myself. I'm aware. He studies my face. Awareness is useful. And revenge. I ask lightly. He shakes his head. Temporary. There's something in his tone. Something that makes it clear he's not here for spectacle. He's here because he chooses to be. That matters more than I expected. We circulate. People approach him first. Of course they do. But he redirects conversations toward me seamlessly. You should speak to Ava, he says more than once. It's her vision. He doesn't overshadow. He amplifies. And that's the first moment I realize the real difference between power and ego. Eventually, it happens. My ex approaches. He doesn't bring her this time. Interesting. Ava, he says stiffly. You look well. I am, I reply calmly. His eyes flick to Michael. Recognition is immediate. Mr. Laurent, he says, extending a hand. Michael shakes it once. Firm. Neutral. I've heard of you, my ex adds, attempting charm. Michael's expression doesn't change. I'm sure. Silence stretches. My ex clears his throat. I didn't expect to see you here, he says to me. I'm on the board, I reply. His brows lift. You're what? Michael answers for me. She's leading the expansion project. Not funding it. Not attached to it. Leading. Something cracks behind my ex's eyes. You always wanted this, he mutters. Yes, I say. I did. And now you have it. I tilt my head slightly. I built it. There's no shouting. No dramatic confrontation. Just this slow collapse of the narrative he constructed about me. Too emotional. Too demanding. Too much. Standing here, I am composed. Measured. Untouchable. He leans in slightly, lowering his voice. You moved on fast. I meet his gaze evenly. No, I reply. I move forward. Michael's hand remains at my back. Steady. When my ex leaves, Michael doesn't comment immediately. We step out onto the terrace, city lights stretching endlessly below. You handled that well, he says. I'm not shaking, I admit quietly. I noticed. I exhale. I thought it would feel better, I say, seeing him like that. And it feels smaller than I imagined. Michael nods slowly. That's because you've grown. We stand in silence for a moment. Then he turns toward me fully. There's something I've been considering, he says. His tone shifts, not business. Not casual. Intentional. I don't merge companies without due diligence, he continues. And I don't build futures without clarity. My pulse begins to climb. Clarity about what? I ask. About whether what we're building is professional alignment, he says, or something more. The air shifts. Not heated. Not rushed. Focused. I don't blur lines, he adds. If I pursue something personal, it's because I'm certain. And are you? I ask softly. He studies me for a long moment. Yes. There's no dramatic music swelling. No audience. Just the city and the weight of his certainty. I won't be your upgrade, I say carefully. He doesn't flinch. I don't want an upgrade, he replies. I want a partner. My breath catches. I saw you in that restaurant, he continues quietly. Not physically, but through the story. I blink. The story. You were humiliated, he says. And you didn't beg. You didn't lash out. You absorbed it. That told me more than success ever could. That's a strange reason to pursue someone. I murmur. It's a precise one, he replies. He steps closer, not trapping, not claiming, just closing the distance. You don't need rescuing, he says. You need someone who stands beside you. I search his face for arrogance. There isn't any. Just decision. What happens if this fails? I ask. Then we handle it like adults, he says simply. No spectacle. No public cruelty. My chest tightens. He doesn't mean it as a dig. But the contrast is loud. I think of the restaurant. Of the hand on the pregnant stomach. Of being told I was too much. And I look at the man in front of me. Composed. Powerful. Not threatened by my ambition. I won't shrink, I say. I wouldn't let you, he answers. The kiss isn't dramatic. It's measured. He waits until I lean in. When our lips meet, it's slow, controlled, like everything else about him. But there's warmth there. Heat beneath the discipline. It doesn't feel like revenge. It feels like alignment. The headlines come months later. Not scandal. Not gossip. Just announcement. Billionaire investor Michael Laurent announces engagement to tech founder Ava Reynolds. My ex sends a message. Short. I underestimated you. I don't respond. The wedding is private. Intentional. No spectacle. No display of conquest. When I walk down the aisle, I'm not thinking about who's watching. I'm thinking about choice. Michael looks at me like I'm not a trophy, like I'm an equal. That changes everything. During the reception, Clara, yes, even she makes an appearance in my life at this point, leans close and whispers, "This is the glow-up of the century." I smile. It's not a glow-up, I reply. It's alignment. Later, when the room quiets and the guests thin out, Michael pulls me close. You never needed me to win, he says softly. I know, I reply. But I'm glad you chose me. I meet his eyes. So am I. The difference between humiliation and power isn't money. It's positioning. He shamed me beside his pregnant lover. Days later, I began building something bigger than him. Months later, I walked down the aisle not as someone upgraded, but as someone chosen. And that changed everything.